Welcome to Roger That, a podcast presented by HVAF of Indiana. I'm your host, Lauren Carpenter, and join me as we discuss how HVAF is ending veteran homelessness and how you can join us in our mission. We'll be having conversations with community partners, staff members, and even some of the veterans we serve. We hope sharing more of our story with supporters like you can shine a light and give a voice to this vulnerable population, because no hero should ever be homeless. Before we get started with today's episode, here are some important things that we'd like for you to know. The 10th annual Operation Alpha is this Friday, so join us this Friday, November 10th, at the Built Well Event Center for the biggest, bestest Veterans Day party around and support vulnerable veterans and their families in our community. Operation Alpha is a casual evening with Hotel Tango Spirits, Upland and Sun King beer, wine from the wine group, custom cigars, great food, a military-inspired grog bowl ceremony, and the ever so popular whiskey pull. I don't know about you, but that just sounds like so much fun to me. So dress as casual and free parking is available on site, and we look forward to seeing you this weekend. You can check out more information on tickets and sponsorship opportunities on our events page at hvaf.org/events, and I'll be sure to include a link to the event in our show notes. And so we've been asking you for weeks, actually for a few months, to like a photo on Facebook so we could win the Breeders' Crown Charity Challenge. And so we are excited to tell you that our hard work has paid off and we won. We received more than $84,000. So that is going to help our Hoosier Heroes in significant ways. So thank you to everyone who liked the Facebook photo and shared so we could win. All right, now let's get into today's episode. So this weekend is probably the biggest weekend of the year for HVAF, and not just because this Friday is Operation Alpha, but this Saturday is Veterans Day, and November 11th is a very special day for us for, obvious reasons. So in honor of Veterans Day, we want to make sure we're taking time to recognize those on Team HVAF who have served our country. So on this episode of Roger That, you'll hear from some of our staff members who are also veterans. I had the honor of speaking with Army National Guard veteran and HVAF's VP for Support, Bernie Cruz, Army veteran HVAF IT coordinator, Dwayne Orender, Navy veteran and HVAF outreach coordinator, Rodney Jackson, and Army veteran and HVAF maintenance facility director, Randon Miller. Here are their stories. Today on Roger That podcast, I am joined by HVAF's VP for Support, Bernie Cruz. Bernie, how are you today?
Doing well.
Good. Yeah, thanks for coming on here and, being willing to share some of your story. So, for those who don't know, Bernie, he, works here at HVAF for the last several years, but he also served in our military. So, first, what branch did you serve in?
Served in the Army.
And then how old were you when you first enlisted?
18.
And then I guess, were you always wanting to serve? What was the feeling whenever you first enlisted?
From a pretty young age, I'd always wanted to fly.
Okay.
And so my grandfather was in World War I, my dad served. And so I was talking to them about, how do I fly, or how do I get to do this? And they just kept steering me towards the military, and it all worked out.
Yeah. How long did you serve?
32 years.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and thank you for your service. And
I was lucky.
Yeah, and so I guess if you want to explain kind of what you did, where you went, and just what your overall experience was like in the military.
So joined in 1982. In order to get into flight school, I had to become a mechanic first. So I worked on aircraft. So I was a UH-1 helicopter mechanic first for a couple of years, and had to go to officer candidate school.
Can you get a little bit closer to it?
And then I went to, then I ended up being accepted to go to flight school. So graduated in flight school in 1986, before you were born.
Yes.
And so for the next, I can't do the math, for 26 years, I believe, I flew all kinds of aircraft, deployed to Bosnia, Kuwait. During my Kuwait deployment, they ended up detailing me up to Iraq for a couple of months. And then shortly after getting back from Kuwait, I deployed to the Hurricane Katrina relief efforts.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how that was?
Of the deployments that I went on, that was probably the most chaotic.
Really?
place that I'd been and the environment. We had no electricity, you had no air conditioning, you had no radio, no cell phone. One of the people that we served with said we really had gone back to almost Civil War battlefield tactics when we got there, because we had to deploy people and basically send them out to these different towns and regions and say, when you get set up, send a runner back to us and let us know where you are, so we can send somebody to get you information. So it was tough.
Yeah, definitely.
Very stressful.
Yeah, for sure. So whenever you got out of the military, what was that transition like from military life to civilian life?
It was interesting. I mean, you spend 32 years of, uniform military discipline and yes sir, no sir, and everything on being on time. And when you get to the civilian world, you quickly learn it's a lot different. Yeah. And you can't deal with people the same way you deal with them in the military. That was probably my biggest transition, is just how to talk to people and deal with people in a different manner. So it was quite a challenge for me.
How would you say that your military experience has shaped who you are today?
A lot of how I am, just discipline and trying to stay in shape and, be on time, just, values, love for the country, patriotism, all those things are bred into you, since you spend so much time doing that, or since I spent so much time doing that.
Yeah. And, you've been on Team HVAF for about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. So
goes fast.
Yeah, definitely. So why would you say what does it mean to you as being a veteran yourself and now working for an organization that serves your fellow veterans?
It's huge. I love what I do. I love this agency. Just having served for so long in the military, saw a lot of people get out, saw a lot of them be very successful, saw a lot of them fall on hard times. So when this opportunity presented itself, I jumped at it. I felt like I was at a point in my life where I could come and try to help, and I knew from talking to people here that I could be of service. And I always felt during my time in the military that the positions that I had where I was helping people was where I was the happiest. So I felt like this was a good fit, and it's worked out fairly well, I think. Yeah. My boss may feel differently. But,
so far, yeah. No. So our last question then is, what is something then about a veteran that you wish people knew more? Maybe like someone who is not familiar, doesn't have veterans in their family or their friends. Like, what's something maybe you'd wish for them to know?
I think a lot of people think of service members almost as robots, that we don't have independent thoughts, that we're, salute the flag and go on and just very disciplined and doing things certain ways. But we have a human side, and I like to have a good time. So a lot of people just think that all we do is read tactics manuals and clean our guns and that kind of stuff. And we have a human side.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bernie, for coming on Roger That today.
Thanks for having me.
I am joined by IT coordinator Dwayne. Dwayne, how are you today?
Amazing. How are you doing today, Lauren?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast and being willing to share your story with all of us. So we know you served in the military. What branch of the military did you serve in?
The Army.
Army. Awesome. And how many years did you serve?
22.
22. Okay. So how old were you when you served, and what was that feeling to first enlist?
I was 17 when I first joined.
Okay.
I joined like 2 weeks out of high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I hit the retirement books one day before my 40th birthday. So that was a pretty amazing thing. And the main reason why I jumped into the Army was because I really didn't have a plan after high school. None. And then about 3 or 4 years after I got in, 9/11 kicked off.
Yeah.
And then my entire perception of why I served changed. To serve my country was probably the greatest thing that I could possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gave me a purpose in life after that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What were some of the places you went and what'd you do?
Oh my goodness. I started off as an infantryman, and I did 2 tours. I did one in South Korea, and then I did one at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I also deployed to Egypt and Israel. And then after that, I got tired of being a pack mule, so I changed over to Signal. I did a lot of backbone communications. Kind of think of it as like AT&T on wheels, basically, where all the cell phone towers and all of your stuff. I did all that on the back end and messed with a lot of satellites and stuff like that. And the places I went to after that, I've been to Fort Huachuca, Arizona, Fort Lewis, Iraq 3 times, Okinawa, Belgium, and then end up being my last duty station here at Camp Atterbury, Indiana.
What was your favorite place you went to?
As far as the sites and stuff go, probably Okinawa. As far as the travel goes, Belgium, because you're in the heartland of Europe.
Right. Yeah, you probably got to go all over then.
Yeah, I got a chance to go to like France, Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg, Poland, Scotland. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was then that transition like once you got out of the military, going from military life into civilian life?
That was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. The DOD nowadays has a great program in order to help you get you transitioned, but they usually don't do it far enough out. So service members need to know today that you need to, if you know you're getting out for certain, to start networking about 2 years out. Whenever I got out, I had a job prepared before I got out, about 6 months out, and then I got to the job during my leave time, my terminal leave time, and during that time, I learned some cool trades and stuff like that. But I learned that I didn't like the job. People were awesome and all that kind of stuff, and then shortly after that, I got bored, started playing games. My wife was like, "Get out of the house." So I took another job with Amazon, as packing and picking. And then HVAF called me, and they were like, "Hey, you looking for a job?" I was like, "Yeah." Got an interview, sat down, and then they were like, "When can you start?" 2 weeks from now. I was like, it was Friday. No, I'll be through the door on Monday.
Yeah.
So that was my adventure afterwards, and then been here for like the last 3.5 years plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say then? That experience has been like, because you've been able to train our veterans and our VetWorks program, and so being a veteran yourself, what does that mean to you to be able to give back in that way?
It's an awesome challenge, because you get the military community is like full of 100% of our citizens in the United States, and so you get very vast different backgrounds, and giving back to those guys and gals has been phenomenal. Especially whenever they come back into HVAF and they say, "Hey, the IT internship helped me do this, help me get to the next level." So that has been absolutely great to hear and see.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. How would you say then, like, your time in the military has shaped who you are today?
I think it has excelled my stubbornness. That we have kind of like a never quit and never leave a fallen comrade behind kind of mentality. Everybody is family. You don't look at people as a colleague. You look at them as brothers and sisters. And that really helps you kind of be more open towards the people you work with. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. But it opens up the doors of communication. It helps you, like really push for the mission-driven piece of it. And people sometimes they think you're being a bully when you're just trying to achieve the same goals together. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I know you've been here, like you said, 3.5, almost 4 years now. Why would you say you like working at HVAF?
I think the one of the biggest aspects is I can make a daily impact both on the employee side and on our client side. The employee side, we've added so much tech into the room since you come back, right?
Yeah.
And we've tried to make things a smoother process. I do it through the lens of IT and trying to make sure that the people and the processes are there. So that really does help me out. And then on the veteran side, as you said, we have that VetWorks program, and we whenever they come in the first week, they're struggling. By the third or fourth week, you see a light bulb go off in their head, like, oh, now what you talked about 3 weeks ago makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what would you say is something that about veterans that you wish more people maybe like aren't familiar with veterans that you wish that they knew?
Generally speaking, most people think of veterans is either they have a mental health conditions or they're heroes. 99% of them fall directly in the center there. They're average, everyday Americans trying to take care of either themselves, their country, or their families. So I know it sounds great to always go up and thank a veteran, but it's also good to tell them, hey, you're a part of my team. Hey, I love what you do and what you have done both for our community and our country.
Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you so much, Dwayne, for coming on here and sharing more about you with us.
You're welcome.
I am welcomed by Navy veteran and HVAF outreach coordinator, Rodney. Hey, Rodney, thanks for coming on today.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Yeah. So first, let's just take it back, all the way to when you first decided to enlist in the military. How old were you and why did you want to enlist? Well,
my story was I took ROTC all 4 years in high school at Tech High School. And I was playing sports, and I really was supposed to go to the Army, but I decided, after talking to a couple of my uncles, I decided to go to the Navy because of they said it was more safe. I don't have to get dropped on the ground and then left there for a certain amount of time and fight through battles and all that. We kind of drop them off and wish for the best. We hope that they come back home. But I was also interested in working on aircraft, so I decided to go to the Navy because I liked what they offered, and then I went on in.
So did you always know you were going to join the military?
Yeah. Okay. Since I was about, I'd say 14.
Okay.
When I first did ROTC, I always was interested in the military because I used to watch a lot of military movies and that kind of thing. So it always interested me to go in.
Yeah. So, do just want to share a little bit about your time in the military, how long you served and where you went, what you did?
Well, I pretty much went all over the world. I served from 81 to 85 and then 86 to 89, and then I did a reserve time from 93 to 2003, but I had what they call inactive reserve time, which qualified me for 20 years, and so I ended up retiring in about 2003 in California. I was a jet mechanic for a long time, and then I switched over to supply because my field of work got really crowded and I couldn't make rate, which is advancement, so I went on into supply, and I finished up in there. But I've been the only conflict I really been in was Beirut, Lebanon, when the 240 Marines were killed. That's a whole nother story. But I enjoyed being in. I wish I could have stayed 30. I've been all over the world, like I said, and I've seen places that I couldn't afford myself to go. But it was just really interesting to me to travel to other countries and learn their history and hang out and just have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say that transition was like from military to the civilian life?
It was a little difficult because in the military we speak a different language. Coming back to civilian life and understanding how civilians operate, it was more laid back because the military is more rigorous. The civilian life is a little bit more kind of laid back. So understanding that and speaking civilian language is different too, because we lose a lot of military jargon. we shorten up our phrases and our words versus civilians speak, the phrase all the way out or sentences all the way out and stuff. So, so it was a little difficult, but it took me almost about a year and a half to 2 years to catch on everything, because I left when I was about 18 and, 40 something years old. So it's a long time to be around that type of time. For us, almost speaking a foreign language when you get out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Now I know you've been with HVAF since 2015, 16.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So for a while now.
Yeah.
And what brought you to HVAF?
Just looking at your core values, working with other organizations that say they would do stuff, but it was kind of like politics. Coming here and seeing the operation. I started off as an employment representative, and having the backing of good people, let me just be myself and do my thing. But the support of what I was doing too, I really appreciated that. And then they actually do what they say they're going to do. The other organizations say a lot, but they didn't do a lot to support veterans. They were just basically about the grants and the projects. Here, it's a wraparound type of service. Everybody that touches that veterans, make sure that veteran's covered in every area. And that's something I appreciate being a veteran myself. It's like they say the term "no left behind" in the military. Mm-hmm. It's the same way that the civilian people treat the veterans here. And it's a lot of people here that are not military. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What is it that you do now for HVAF?
I'm the outreach coordinator. I go out into the field and try to talk to the veterans that are homeless and try to get them to come off the street and explain to them some of the programs that we have available for them to come in and get some assistance. It takes a while for them to befriend you because they're so used to having the door slammed in their face. And then once they find out I'm in the military and I share my story with them, then they have a tendency to open up a little faster. Some take a while, some are faster than others, and some they just want to be left alone, which I understand too, because it depends on the trauma they've been throughout their entire life, not just the military. But I still talk to them, I still see them. If I have anything that they need available to pass out to them, I still help them. And, some of them do eventually turn around. It might take them 2 or 3 years, but eventually they see that they can trust me. Mm-hmm. So that makes them curious about our operation, because I go out and represent the company on the streets. So I try to be as honest and positive as I possibly can and just trying to gain their trust.
Yeah. What does it mean to you as a veteran to now be able to use your full-time job to help out your fellow veterans?
It's very humbling, but it's like family. I grew up kind of poor myself, but my mom and dad made sure we had everything we needed, which made it seem like I didn't realize till I was older that we were kind of struggling. Mm-hmm. But to go out and help, prior military personnel and that are kind of struggling in life, and they don't really have any connection with their own families and things like that. And I come around and offer them just a kind word, or just say hi to them or something. You never know where nobody's at in life. They appreciate that, and I appreciate it. It's really humbling to me, that I'm able to do this job, because I've had some people go out with me and they can't understand and they can't handle it. It really makes them sad and stuff. At first I was, but now I've gained kind of a tough skin, because you got to realize they're people just like us. Mm-hmm. And just talking to them and sharing some of their old military stories, some of us make up a lot of things that could be true, could not be true, but it's just fun talking to them and seeing where they're at, no matter what branch of service they're in, male, female, and it's fun to be around them. So
yeah. And what is something that maybe someone who's listening who isn't a veteran themselves, doesn't have people around them that are veterans, mm-hmm. what's something that you would wish they would know about veterans that may not know?
I think it's an appreciation factor even though the veteran might be homeless, that they serve this country, even though their situation is different now, but they serve this country, they put on the uniform out of respect for this country and did what they could do to represent this company. Just, if you see a veteran, just say, hey, thanks for your service, or to show some kind of appreciation for what they've done. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rodney, so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
I am joined by Brandon Miller. Brandon, how are you today?
I am great. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on
Thank
and
you.
sharing your story with us.
No, thank you.
A lot of veterans, probably almost most veterans I interview, whether ones we served or on our staff board, a lot of them volunteered to join the military. But your story is a little bit different. You were drafted.
Just a tad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not join, and I had no want to join. I had a great job. I was out of school, and
How old were you?
things were good. Not I was just out of high school.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just getting that in 18, 19 when I got drafted.
So what was it like, I guess, first when you just heard that there was going to be a draft? What were you thinking?
It was all, the Vietnam War was the most televised war ever. So every day we got this big diet of the Vietnam battle. So all through my sophomore, junior, senior years, it was relevant in my home. And so, but we didn't know, and I didn't understand the draft. I knew that I had to sign up, and you did at 18, but then put your name on the list to be drafted. And so as far as when this happened and how I felt, it was all new. It was like, and all of a sudden the equation of me going and joining was removed. And I didn't want to, but once I knew I was drafted, I was all in.
So did you get a letter that said you were drafted?
Yeah, I got, it was a letter. The draft was a funny thing, the way it was set up. They had these little bitty capsules, and inside each capsule was a date. And they reached in and drew out a date, and each date, and when they reached in and drew out the 7th, they unfolded the paper, and it was my birthday. So I knew I'm at the top of the list. I'll be drafted. So that's when, you fall back on the bed and you think, I'm going. And so I was working for Indianapolis Power and Light, had a great job. I went through my Spur Grunt school. It was first you went through Grunt school, Spur school, and then now I'm a big tough guy. I got my gaffs on. I could climb poles, and I thought I'm set for life. And then I got my letter. It says you have been inducted into the United States military. And when you're drafted, you're drafted to all branches, not just Army.
Oh yeah.
It could be Navy, it's whatever the United States needs at that time. And so naturally it was Army and it was Vietnam. So.
Yeah. What then happened after that? Once you find out you're drafted, then what was next?
Well, it was only a few weeks later.
Okay.
Then they give you your duty to report.
Okay.
And then you go downtown and you stand and you swear in. And then once you swear in, then you leave and then you come back to another time downtown, and then they load you up on a bus and off to Fort Knox I went.
What year was this?
That was 69.
Okay. And did any of your friends, classmates get drafted too?
Yeah,
remember?
yeah. I had a few of mine, but not in my sector.
Oh, okay.
It was, they went to different areas and stuff like that. So there was a few classmates that actually went in that same time period, and a few of them didn't come home. I was very, very fortunate. So on that end, but and then you go to your duty station, you go to your first basic training, and I'm sure the guys have already, your basic training, and then you go to AIT, and then I went to advanced infantry, then I went to jump school, then I was in ranger training, mountain climbing training, and then after I had almost a full year of training, and then I got my orders to go to Vietnam. And so then I came home from Colorado, didn't complete the mountain climbing because they needed me. And so my MOS was 40F11P, and which meant intelligence, and I was put in a long-range reconnaissance team. And so that was and then by the time I got there, I was already a sergeant. And so they put me in charge, which it was just kind of ironic. Here you're a young man, you don't really have experience. You think you do, but you really don't and then they marry you up with somebody that's been in the jungle for quite a while, another fella, and then I worked with him for a while, and then he leaves, and so anyway. But I was once I got in, I was assigned to 101st Airborne, and it was second of the 506th, and that was kind of the journey. And then I was there for 12 months, and then after 12 months in state, 12 months in jungle, and then I came back, and then I had to serve for 2 more years on standby.
Okay.
And so that kind of gives you kind of a quick wrap.
Yeah. So what year then was it when you got out of the military?
Okay, once I got out, it was the full would be 72.
Okay.
Would be the exit or the time when I was
What was that transition like then, out of military life back to civilian life?
Well, I was very fortunate in a lot of ways because when I got back, I wanted to fulfill a couple things that I really thought I'd enjoy. And at first was my to get back in with power and light. Well, that wasn't going to work, even though they held their job. So I started working as a technician at the hospital. And I thought, this is nice. I like this. This could be my first love, medicine. So I really got into it and found that I just wasn't making enough to survive. And so one of the nurses said, you're working 2 shifts. I said, yeah. She goes, well, my boss works at a construction company and he needs a foreman. I'm the man. So anyway, it jumped off from there. But I have so many blessings about the hospital. I worked there for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
As a technician on weekends. And I met this little girl. Her name was Ramona Gale. And that was 50 years ago. And we're still married. 2 sons, 8 grandchildren. And I couldn't be more blessed.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. How would you say then, especially since you didn't even want to join the military at first?
That's correct. Uh-huh.
How has, though, that experience just changed you and make you the person you are today?
Yeah. Well, I think once I knew I was drafted, I dedicated myself to being a good soldier. And I thought, if you look at this, okay, this is a challenge for me, and I'm going to serve the best of my ability. And I knew that I was going to come home either in the belly of the plane or in a nice seat on top, and that was my goal. I thought I'm going to do this, and very, very fortunate. So how it changed my life? Go ahead, go ask me the question. Because I don't want to get off track here.
No, you're right. Yeah. How is your experience in the military make you the person you are today?
Well, I think some of it, had to go through, once you're dedicate yourself, and then you get out, and then you take those resources that the military gave you, and you start using them for good or bad. And I think there's a choice there, and you have to come out with the way that I can make a difference in my life, I can make a difference in others' lives, but I think I wanted to serve. So when I got out of the military, I knew I could do, because they wanted to re-up me. They came to me and they said, hey, will you sign up for, 4 more or 5 more years, and we'll give you this and we'll give you this. And I thought, you know what? I was so blessed to get in and out. I can do something different. So it made me, I was very dedicated with any job that I worked. And I think that gave me my background to move forward. And I was very, very proud of my military. Now, we came back at a very sad time. With the Vietnam. So there was a lot of years there where it wasn't even talked about.
Yeah.
And my experiences in Vietnam, I didn't share with my boys for years and years and years because I didn't want to, number one, have them raised up in a home where battle war was looked at as a fun thing. And so, by not talking about it, it gave us other things to talk about. So, and I still to this day, I stay away from the battle movies and things like that. It's not good for me to watch those. So, but then there's victories that we had. There's victory stories that I had in Vietnam that I just love. And those are some of the ones that I told with on the other shows. So anyway.
Yeah. Do we have maybe a time for one victory story you'd like to share?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. One the kids always liked was a spider hole story. And I don't know if you've heard this before.
I don't think I have.
Okay. All right. Well, we were on about a 7-day mission, and the fire base was getting rocketed. They were shooting mortars into the fire base. And so my recon team back on site, and they saw where the rounds were coming from. And so they thought, okay, Sergeant Miller, we want to send you to destroy that tube, find it, do whatever you need to do. Maybe you can locate it. So huge big gun every day would shoot this huge amount of artillery on this mountaintop. And that's where this tube was. And so they worked it out, shot. And then next morning they had my recon team go up. Well, we got all the way up to the top, and we couldn't find the tubes or anything like that. And it was getting close to dark, and all of a sudden we heard the big gun go off. And all of a sudden we realized, prior to the gun going off, we were up there looking around for this tube, and we found 6 spider holes. And the spider hole was about 3 feet around, maybe 5 feet deep. And what the Vietnamese, they would jump in these, and they would use it as for protection, pop up and ambush you. So that was all the strategy and all that. But it was kind of fun to find, and we'd never found one like that before. Well, all of a sudden, when we're up there, these guns start going off. So I grabbed the radio, and we're checking fire, but we couldn't get anybody coordinated. And all of a sudden, the rounds are coming right at us. And so the guy that's shooting the gun, he forgot to change the coordinates. He didn't know my recon team was going to go up there. So, make this long and short, the same people that were trying to kill us, our enemies, that was the day they saved my life.
Yeah.
And that was the same day that my own people tried to kill me.
Oh my gosh.
So it was one of those neat things, because when the rounds started coming in, if we hadn't had those spider holes to jump in, we would have gotten, wiped out. Wow. So we all jumped in the spider hole, and then all of a sudden the round stopped, and we popped out and got them, and then they moved the guns, and it was all good. But it was a good feel-good story, and I like that. That gives me a better mindset. I didn't lose any of my men, and so it was good. And then here later on in life, we fast forward to 2011. That's when one of my construction bosses said, "Hey, there's a outfit downtown. They need a veteran, and it needs to be a senior supervisor in construction. Would you like to take it on?" I said, "Yeah, I'll go down and grab the drawings." And that was 2011 when I started Manchester. After I got done with that, like 4, 5, 6 months later, HVAF came over and said, "We want to just move you over into the maintenance department." And that was the first part of 2012.
Wow. Okay.
So I've been here since.
So you've been here for 11 years then?
Well, right at 12.
12, yeah. I guess now it's also getting to 2024 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you've been here for a long time. And how has it been then seeing, like, I'm sure it's so much different than the organization is from when you started to where it is now.
We've made some great progresses, and I just really, it seemed like each person that had their opportunity at the batter's plate took us to another level, and we've got just some great employees, and you're one of them, by the way.
Thank you.
So it's just a good team, and a lot has changed, and some for the good. And I'm not a negative person to begin with, but I think there's always room for improvement. I think any organization can say, we did this. How can we change? How can we reorganize to do one better? How can we? And if we keep our focus right about serving veterans and giving them the thing that they need most, which is hope, it opens up. And I'm a veteran too, so I have a different dialogue with the guys, and since I'm not only a veteran, but I'm also a combat veteran, which throws me into a different category, which means that I should have better understanding and maybe some more compassion to see what these guys are coming through. And it kills me when I see the young men that can do better, and we're here to help them do better. And the old men, like myself, they should be doing better, and they can. So it's all about, and we have the people that encourage them, and I'm with a great group. So
yeah. What does it mean to you then? To be able to use your skills and experience to give back to your fellow veterans.
Oh, it's a life builder. It helps me in my life when you're able to do that for people, and you're able to give back. The whole time you're giving, you're getting. The whole time you're showing that compassion to somebody, that uplifts your spirit. And we're humans. We get our feelings hurt. We don't want somebody in our face, but at the same time, if we can just allow that person to vent a little bit, and then let him know, hey, he's loved. We understand your situation, but we need you to do this, this, and this, and we can help you do that. So it's a good thing, and we've got some people who can juggle those balls. And in my situation here as the director, I'm hit by a lot of balls and a lot of plates I got to keep spinning, and we're constantly improving HVAF. And so that's exciting to me. We're constantly getting people that want to donate great amounts of money so we can make improvements for our veterans, for their lives, to get the next set in, because we're all about getting the next set in, moving the next set along, and it's a never-ending juggle. So see, sooner or later they'll be replacing me, getting a new guy in, and which is exciting, because I think HVAF is going to be here. We're here at 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I can see this going another 30 with no problem.
For sure.
Got to have some good people like you. Got to have some good people.
Yeah, definitely. And so, last question I always like to, end with is, if there's someone listening who, isn't a veteran themselves, may not have veterans around them, what's something that you wish that they could know about veterans?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
That is. I mean, as far as what they would want to know about veterans,
Mm-hmm.
I think now more than ever, I get people coming up to me and thanking me for being a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I get them at all ages. They come up to me and want to say, thank you for your service. And that is very precious to me. Where before, no one would say a word. This went on for years and years. But now for me to say or answer your question as far as what would I want them to know about me, or what would be the one thing that as far as veterans, I think that we continue to understand that veterans want that respect for what they did, but at the same time, we want to be given that benefit of the doubt and some hope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I look at. I'm pretty strict when it comes to a way that I've been very blessed with having the sons that I have and the grandchildren that I have, and trying to be the leader in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think leading by example, and then setting the example.
Mm-hmm.
And we maybe we're a strange lot to some, but I didn't choose.
Yeah, I think that your stories can definitely be inspiring for people that, their life is, as much as we want to control it, we can't. It's out of our control. And just to make the best of every situation we're in. And, I think that's, again, really inspiring that you could have just been very, bitter about getting drafted.
Sure.
But you just went all in and you were dedicated. And I think that's really cool. So
thank you.
So thank you for your service in the military, and your service now, giving back to veterans, and thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Right. Well, I enjoyed it. Many more stories. Maybe when we meet again, we'll open up the cat box.
I'm seeing another podcast episode in the future for sure.
That's great.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Roger That. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to Roger That on wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at HVAF of Indiana. And for even more stories on HVAF and the veterans that we serve, check out our blog on our website at hvaf.org. Thank you, and until no hero is homeless, we'll see you next time on Roger That, a podcast presented by HVAF of Indiana.